Hi guys, this is Angela from Angela's Midleaf Crisis. I know I don't normally make videos, and maybe I should. Probably I should. So today I thought I would make one for you because I'm going to collect some pollen off of my Alocasia Sinuata because it has a flower and it's dropped a bunch of pollen, and I'm going to collect it. I don't know if I will actually pollinate with it, but while I have the pollen, I might as well collect it because you can put it in the freezer and store it to use later. It's kind of a backwards process. If you want to allocate, or if you want to pollinate alocasias, you kind of have to have flowers. They go through the female stage before the male stage, and the male stage is where you collect the pollen. So you kind of have to go through a cycle of flowers to collect pollen before you can actually pollinate a female flower when it's receptive. It's kind of a backwards process. But anyway, you got to have all the parts to make it work. So we're going to collect that today. And I thought before we do that, I'll show you, I had collected some pollen from my batwing. And then I had a silver dragon that was flowering. So when it was in the female receptive stage, which is hard to know when that happens because the female receptive stage happens a couple of days before the flower actually opens, and I'm not sure how in nature these things get pollinated because I'll show you when I pull out the other one how it's all closed up, right? It's all closed up and then it opens and the pollen drops, but it's already past the female receptive stage at that point. So you kind of have to cut them open to pollinate them. But I pollinated this is a silver dragon, dragon scale, silver dragon. Which one is it? Silver dragon, I think. And so I pollinated it with the batwing pollen that I collected. And those are the berries that are forming. Now, I don't know if these are going to be viable or not. The flower has not died and the berries are growing. And so that is a good sign. And they're kind of changing color. I hope that's kind of clear. I wonder if it's focusing on me. But anyway, so see how one of them has turned green and the other one is still pretty white. On the back side here, it's starting to turn green a little bit. This other one, this plant is heavy. It's in pond. So it's starting to get some green in here. So I think the pollination took. Now so the berries have to ripen. The process is that it pollinates, the berries grow, the berries have to ripen. And then once the berries are ripe, I can harvest the berries. The seeds will be inside the berries. So I have to harvest the seeds and then plant them. And they may or may not even grow. So who knows? I don't know. It's just an experiment. And we'll see who knows what the plant will look like if it does even grow. So it's just a fun little experiment. We're just trying it. See what we get. So here is, try not to bang this one. Here's my Sinuata. So this flower here has not yet opened. This one right. I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to lose the pollen that's up there. So this one has not yet opened. It could be at the female receptive stage. I really don't know because I was out of town on vacation and haven't really been monitoring the flowering. But it's kind of starting to cave in on this other side. So I don't know if that flower is maybe dying off. And then you can see up in here, if I can get it turned enough. This is when it has opened. It's in the male stage. And there is a bunch of pollen sitting right in this lip here. Let me set this down and look. Because I might have knocked it. So as it opens, it kind of pulls away. And it might have all fallen in there, which would not be good. So I'm not going to pick this back up. I'm going to scoot you guys down. It's not the greatest angle, but it's what I've got to work with today. So I bought these little like test tube kind of things on Amazon, and I'll link those in one of the comments or down in the description, wherever. I don't know where this video is going to go, YouTube, Facebook, wherever it ends up. But I got them on Amazon in a big giant bag, like I have more than I will ever need. But I may do some pollination on my anthuriums. So we'll see. So what I'm going to do, I also ordered just some cheapo little paintbrushes, and I use one paintbrush per plant because I don't want to contaminate the pollen with pollen from another plant that I've already done. And then I just use this little tiny, it's a little colored piece of paper. It's easier to see the pollen on the colored paper than on white paper. And so I'm just going to set this little test tube down here. There was so much more pollen in here, I think I dropped it all inside the flower. And I'm gonna just brush this onto the paper with that paintbrush and just kind of do it carefully and try to, if any of it's fallen down in there. And so maybe, well, I don't know, everything I've read says the female part is receptive before the flower opens. So I was gonna say maybe when the flower starts to open and some of that pollen drops in there. I don't know, you know, the bug, it has to open enough for the bugs to get in there to be able to, in nature, pollinate, right? Okay, so I didn't get a whole lot. I think I lost some in handling it, but you can see some of it there on the paper. And then I'm just gonna gently try to shake that down into this little test tube thing. And then I'll label it with a label, and then I'll pop it in the freezer. Hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. So there's not much, but there's a little bit in there. And from what I read online, it doesn't take a ton of pollen to pollinate a flower. I'm tempted, close that up so I don't spill it, to kind of open this flower. I might as well so I can show you. I think it's beyond the receptive point, but in order, oh yeah, there's all the pollen. Holy cow, I just dropped a bunch of it. I'm gonna try and grab that. Can you see that? There's some more. I'm gonna turn this light on. Is that better or worse? I don't know. Let's put that in there. I need another hand. And I do struggle this much on my own when I'm not even making a video. This is a challenging kind of thing to do by yourself, because you don't want to spill it everywhere. Okay, we got that. So we've got a little bit more now. Let's see what else we can get out of there, because I think it did all drop down into the bottom. So I'm going to pull this sheath off. Oh yeah, there's a ton in there. I knew there was more. And it could, if the information I've read is not necessarily 100% accurate, because it seems to me that the flower would need to open somewhat in order for bugs to get in there to be able to pollinate the female part, because it's covered in that sheath. And when I did pollinated my silver dragon, I kind of didn't think it would take. I thought I had missed the window, but I didn't video that, so I was trying to, but it just didn't work out. Okay, we're getting some now. Look at all that. I don't want to set the brush down on the ground either, because I don't want to get it all. There could be dirt and junk on the floor. See if I can get any more out of there. But can you see, this is what the inside looks like? And there is some fluid in there. And there's some berries in here. So usually I have a little X-Acto knife that I use when I do this, and I didn't bring it over with me. So I'm just kind of tearing this flower apart, which normally I'm a little more careful and I cut it. But I didn't really expect to try to do anything with this part. There we go. Okay, that was a challenge. It's all gooey too. I don't like that. So would be the part that you would then put the pollen on to pollinate, is these little flowers here. This is the female part. So I'm thinking, should we put some pollen on it and see if it takes? Experiment, since we know that it in all likelihood is supposed to be past the point where I can pollinate it, and then we wouldn't be surprised if it didn't take. And if it took, we would know that we had a little bit bigger window than what the internet said. So the question is, do I want to use my batwing pollen on the Sinuata? And the reason why I'm hesitant is because I don't have a lot of batwing pollen left. And I really like the Sinuata plant, but it's a little bit more of a difficult plant. And so I don't know, but it could make a really pretty hybrid. Wish you guys were here to tell me what you thought. I think I'm not going to do it this time because there's still 2 more flowers coming up. We've got this flower. I think this is gonna, nope, that might be a leaf. I hope that's a leaf. Let me see. I think there's gonna be a flower in there. I think that's just the sheath and the flower. I think it's gonna get another flower. So I don't really want to pollinate on the first flower. This plant has never flowered before. So the plant's still kind of young and juvenile and not super mature. And I don't have very much batwing pollen left. And it's the only other pollen that I have collected so far. So I'm not, but I have a lot of this. I could self it. Not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I just can't, I can't decide, and I don't want to waste the pollen. So, all right, let's do it. Let's just put a little bit on it to self it. So we'll put this pollen on it, and because it's probably, that's what I should do, because that pollen has fallen in there already. It's already self-pollinated if it's receptive, right? So there's no point in really cross-contaminating it with pollen from another species. Well, it's not another species, but another plant within its family. So let's just put a tiny bit of this pollen on it so I can show you the process of how I did the other one. And we'll do that. All right, putting it back down. So I'm going to put a little bit, trying to see if you can, what you can see. I'm gonna put a little bit of pollen back on this piece of paper because I don't want to use a bunch and I don't want to be dipping my brush in and out of here. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit back on the paper at a time. So see, I've got that there. And then I'm gonna dip my paintbrush in it. Actually, this is probably sticky. I know it is down in here because it got all over my fingers. So I'm gonna use that sticky, I think it's called stigmatic fluid, to get the pollen to stick to the brush. And then I'm just gently brushing all these little flowers, which may have already, since pollen fell down in there, may have already gotten pollinated. So we're just kind of double. So I guess my experiment isn't 100%. Of course, I'm no laboratory or anything. So because pollen has fallen in there, I don't know. We're just going to see if this thing forms berries or not. So I'm just kind of touching these little flowers with the paintbrush. I'm going to dip this paintbrush down in this crevice because I can see that some pollen had fallen down in there. This flower has a lot less of the female flowers on it than my silver dragon had. But like I said, this is the first time it's flowered. I think the silver dragon's flowered before, so the flowers are a little more mature. And that's all I'm gonna do. So now we're just gonna wait and either the whole flower will die off, and if the whole thing dies, it'll just shrivel up like this one here. This is a flower off the batwing. I had collected pollen from it and opened it to look and see inside. And I couldn't remember if I had tried to self-pollinate this one or not, so I left it, but it's all shriveled up. So this did not take. Actually, it looks like there could have been one berry in there that started to form. But it won't do anything now because it's all shriveled up and dying. But there's, I don't know if you can see this. Oh, that's really bumpy. But there's one little berry right here that looks like maybe had gotten pollinated. The rest of it is all shriveled up, but it won't develop. I don't think. I mean, I know it's not going to develop, and I don't think it's viable now. I'll leave it on here and not cut it off until it just totally shrivels up. See what it does, but I don't expect anything out of it, to be honest. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing today. I'm collecting pollen off of my Sinuata. And well, now we just wait and see what happens. Probably gonna repot some plants today. If you guys are interested in this kind of stuff and you want more videos, let me know. I have been on the fence about, should I do videos, should I not do videos? It's a whole process. I've done videos before when I was doing a different business, and so I'm not necessarily opposed to doing them. I just guess I would really like to know if anybody wants to watch them. And so let me know what you thought. I am not a professional videographer. I don't do editing, so you'll probably get it as is, and you know, with practice, hopefully I'll get better. But there's a software program that I can use to make videos where we can do screenshots and picture-in-picture kind of thing, but I don't really want to invest in the software. It's pretty expensive if it's not something anybody really wants to watch. So, and my following is pretty small right now, so I'm just kind of relying on you guys and what you want to see and don't want to see. So anyway, I hope you all have an amazing day. I'm going to sign off because I'm kind of out of stuff to talk about. I'm going to go repot some plants. Hope you have a great day. Bye.